diving into the conference championship games. A lot there. Big 12, Baylor, Oak State, 21-16. Baylor prevails. They've got a big lead. They're up 21-3, 21-6. Oak State comes storming back. Baylor 2 goal line stands. And this is a game, that because Oklahoma State lost, it eliminated a little bit of the drama. Would they jump Cincinnati? Would they be able to jump Notre Dame? Bama beating Georgia, I think, eliminated some of that too. But when this happened, you thought, okay, there's not going to be no one that comes ultimately from behind Cincinnati or Notre Dame. But give it to Baylor and Dave Aranda. 2 goal line stands. Force a field goal on the first one. Second one, the race to the pylon. And so oftentimes when you see a running back bounce it, go dive, it seems like they almost always get there because we're conditioned to see that play, the stretch. You look at it down the side, and all you have to see is the tip of the ball break the plane of the white. Well, it ultimately didn't happen. And immediately they zoom over Mike Gundy, stoic face. Okay, you get that. He's a coach that just lost an opportunity to win a Big 12 championship and potentially go to the college football playoff, which if they won that, I don't think it would have mattered ultimately because Bama beat Georgia. But if that wouldn't have happened, you would have thought they probably would be getting in. And heck, maybe they still could have jumped Cincinnati anyway. Who knows how that would have shaken out. But then you zoom over to Dave Aranda, guy who just won his first conference championship as a coach, and he's sitting there just locked up, arms crossed, stone-faced. I'm like, man, celebrate, just crack a smile, but he's all business. He's done a great job there at Baylor. I'm glad they're keeping him. It's good for football to have some of these great coaches dispersed around. Apparently he loves being there because I thought he could have been a guy that would have been tied to LSU, Oklahoma, a bunch of these other jobs, but just stone-faced, staring at him. And, Oak State, obviously they're going to be getting to go to a nice little bowl game. They have to find a way. I believe they're playing Notre Dame. They've got to find a way. We'll break all that down later, but Spencer Sanders has to find a way not to be a turnover machine if they want to have any chance of being able to win that one. Pac-12 championship, not really any implications on a national scale, except for the fact that Mario Cristobal looks like he's probably been checked out for two or 3 weeks now because they got you would call it boat race, but a boat race to me is big plays down the field. They got bludgeoned twice at the end of the season now by the Utah Utes, who started off really slow and have caught fire and run the football and are tough and physical. 190 yards on the ground. They limited Oregon to 250 on the ground. Oregon was 3 for 12, 25% on third downs. And it wasn't like Utah played a flawless game. Their quarterback, Cam Rising, he had 2 interceptions. And so they were able to get the victory without playing perfect, and they won that game 38-10, 28-point margin, absolutely stomped the Ducks. And so they're scrambling, trying to figure out their coaching situation. But Utah playing Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, that's going to be a huge opportunity for Ohio State to show they can stop the run, because that's one thing Utah does. They're tough, they're physical, and they run the football. A couple of quick games here. Cincinnati, great to see them get the victory and give themselves a chance in the AAC, being the first team getting in. Huge for Luke Fickell. I love they played at the home site. You get to watch all the fans rush down on the field. Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati. Really a heartwarming scene. And what do they get for their reward? To play the biggest bully on the block. They get to take on Goliath in Alabama. So excited for that as we'll break that down here coming up in future shows. Some news here as well. Georgia, Bama. And I've been saying this all year, and people have been sitting there, kind of poo-pooing it, crapping on it. I didn't think Georgia would ever be able to win a chase game, or they would have to prove to me, rather, that they could win a chase game. Bama got up on them. They were able to get a lead, and in doing so, that put Georgia behind the 8 ball. They couldn't just run it and play defense. They pushed a lot onto Stetson Bennett. He played okay. He had over 300 yards passing, close to 350. But, critical interception there at the end. Wasn't able to get it done. And here's how Bama did it. When you're playing a team that has elite defensive line, you can't just run right into the teeth of them. And frankly, Bama hasn't really been good running the football all year. Like, they struggled. That's not what they're good at. And they've got Bryce Young, who's a pocket passer who used his legs. They came in big. But the way you do it is a lot of movement, lateral movement to run those defensive linemen. Now, you have to get a first down or two and get to that 5th, 6th, 7th play in the drive where you're not substituting, You're gassing out the defensive linemen from running down, chasing bubble screens, lateral runs, quick game, and you keep going to the line. And you don't necessarily have to snap it fast, but you just can't let them get off the field because those 340 pounders that are playing inside, they'll wreck you if they can get rest. But when they can't, you'll see what happened with Bryce Young. Late in the drives, he was given a ton of time because the pass rush didn't exist. It was extinct. Once you get into play 9, 10 in a drive, even heck 7 or 8, those guys are gassed out because they haven't been able to get to the sideline and get some rest. So that was the methodology Bill O'Brien and Nick Saban used. I don't know if Michigan can repeat it. We'll get to that other side and we'll dig it out later with that. But the key to Georgia is could you get up on them? Could you exhaust that defensive front? And as we saw, their secondary is good, but they were covered up by great pressure most of the year. That's not a knock on them, but that's just the reality of what has happened. And Bama did a great job. They schemed it up as well as anybody ever has done. And then the last game, Big Ten championship, I would argue Michigan probably should have been first. They've played as well the last month as anybody, starting with their victory over Penn State and Happy Valley, 21-17. They've got the late crosser to all. McNamara puts it in there. He turns, rounds the corner, and they ultimately, win that football game. They're the playing great football. They bludgeon Ohio, beat Maryland, bludgeon Ohio State, up and down the field. And then they just absolutely eviscerate Iowa, especially in the second half. Get that early lead. Iowa's not built to play from behind. They have to run the football and play defense. And in doing that, you're seeing a lot from Josh Gaddis, their offensive coordinator. They've always been running the football pretty well all season long, but they started getting more creative with it. They started throwing some more play actions. They've got the bubble pass, the double pass, running back, halfback pass they've thrown out there, some flea flickers, ran a reverse in the red zone against Ohio State. Those are some of the explosive gains. Those are some of the things he's going to have to work in that will need to happen for them to be able to have success. He utilized that early in the game. They got the lead. They've been utilizing J.J. McCarthy, their young quarterback as well. He comes in, will give them a little different flavor, a little different look. But Josh Gaddis, kudos to you, sir, for finding a way to taking this running attack, which has been really good, and supplemented with a great defense, and now putting some of those explosive gains around it as well, being able to have some success. And the emergence then of Blake Corum coming back as well. He had the leg injury, got back. You saw the speed. He's going to need to be a home run threat in the college football playoff for them to be able to have success. And the last piece, utilizing Donovan Edwards. They've done a good job with him out of the backfield. He's their little X factor. And I mean, their 3 best skill guys are really their 3 running backs. And they just find different ways to deploy them. And that's a tip of the cap to Josh Gaddis for what he's been able to do and Jim Harbaugh this year, blending that toughness, that hardcore physical pounding football with a little bit of that flair and flavor that you like to see. And you have to see if you're going to want to win big games, because it's too hard to put together 80-yard drives in 3, 4, and 5-yard increments. You need a couple 20-yard chunk plays in there to make it easier.